Hey there, welcome to Her Truth Revealed, unraveling our midlife era. I'm your host, Wonderful Morrison. This space is for the woman who's done pretending, done hiding, and ready to step fully into her truth. Midlife isn't about fading into the background. It's a time where resilience lights the way and authenticity becomes the loudest voice in the room. In this season of our lives, we are more than just survivors. We are creators, revolutionaries, and unapologetic women rewriting the rules. I've been through my battles, rebuilding from loss, betrayal, and heartache. But here's the truth. Every challenge, every tear, and every setback has led me to this moment of profound transformation. Together, we're going to dive into raw, real conversations that shatter stereotypes, tackle the tough stuff, and embrace the powerful magic that is midlife. So, if you're ready to live this chapter with boldness and joy, hit subscribe. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it and leave a review so we can keep this revolution going. Ladies, no more masks, no more apologies, just the truth of who we are. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to another amazing episode of Our Truth Revealed, where conversations in midlife is paramount. And the reason is because midlife isn't about an age. It's about transitions. And women just don't talk enough about our journeys and our struggles. And we can't leave it to just the people that got big names and lights, because there's everyday women all the time going through it and have gone through it. And those are the women we need to hear from and talk to. So welcome to another episode. And before I tell you about my amazing guest, I just want to say thank you to all of the listeners and how you share and expand these conversations and like all our stuff and follow us and just genuinely love us. And just a reminder, if you have beautiful things to say, please leave it in our reviews. But if you have nothing nice to say, like my mama said, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. So I want to introduce my beautiful friend, Colleen, who I met, and we just found out we live close to each other. We didn't even know, but she has an incredible story to tell of her transitions of living her majority of her experience on a fishing boat. Not like I'm going to bring a rod out and throw it out into the sea. No, we're talking hardcore, the one you see on television kind of fishing boats, and the transitions that she has made through this thing called binge drinking, and her experiences with her late husband, and how now she wants to take all her knowledge and experience and her wisdom and her soul's journey on stages to just let out everybody know, number one, how one moment, 1 second, one experience changes our entire life trajectory, and how it can start with this idea of binging. Like, binging is sort of a big word, but I'm going to have her explain to you what that means. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Colleen. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, I am, when we first had a conversation, I remember asking you a couple times, like, what is a definition of binging? Because I think everybody has a different view of what binging is. Tell us what it is for you and what this book is, and the book that you're writing, which I'll have you talk about, and your speaking platform.
Yeah, thank you. That's so true because binging can be a lot of things to a lot of people, but it's actually in the realm of binge drinking alcohol. It's four or more drinks for a female, five or more for a male. And these are the standard drinks, not like, when I used to drink, I would get a glass of wine and pour it 3/4, and I would call that a drink. Well, that was probably 2.5 drinks. It's the measurement of alcohol for blood alcohol level. And so that's the definition. And it's in one incident. So it's like at a party football game, whenever you're drinking or we're
Yeah,
drinking.
yeah. So when we were talking, you had mentioned that you had this very unique experience of being on fishing boats, like commercial, giant, very male dominated industry in the realm of industries. Is that where it started for you? Where, because what are you guys doing out there? You've just been on the rough seas or was binge drinking a habit that you learned at a young age, or is it something that where did that transpire for you?
Wow. Didn't really drink in high school. I was a soccer player, good girl, never got in trouble. College, started drinking in college, the
Mm,
binge drinking. And actually, I went to Western Washington University to play soccer. And this was back in the 80s. So it was a long time ago. But binge drinking was it's always a thing in college, right?
yeah,
Maybe not so
yeah.
much now. I'm hearing my nieces tell me there's not as much binge drinking, mostly pot is the big thing. Yeah, but I think there's still binge drinking going on. So I was drinking heavily and I ended up dropping out of college because I'm not a type A. I'm a highly motivated person, but I'm not hungover. I wasn't going to get up and go to class. And actually, it's probably because I didn't have any drive to go to school except play soccer. And so
Mhm,
I ended up having to drop out. So I moved back home and I never related the drinking to being the problem. This is
mhm.
the interesting thing. 'Cause I really was denying that it was a thing. It was like everyone else was doing it. I didn't have a problem, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of a challenge, right? Because it's the accessibility and the normalization of
Right.
our environment kind of doesn't make it the problem.
Exactly, and especially, looking back in my 20s, right? It's
Mhm.
kind of a common thing. You party, you get dolled up and go to the bar. I don't know, maybe it's different now. This was years ago. But so then I fell into the commercial fishing industry. And the companies I work on, they're corporate, so there's no alcohol. In the
Ah,
beginning, there was, but after some accidents happened and lawsuits, the drinking and drugging stopped. And now we're actually tested periodically. So when you're on the ship under contract, which could be a month to 6 months, no alcohol or drugs allowed. So we used to call it the floating rehab because we would party hard on our vacation. We'd have a long vacation, like we
mhm.
work in chunks and then time off. And then just about when I was thinking, man, I got to slow down. I have a problem. Maybe I get on the boat, not drink for 3 or 4 months and tell myself, oh, I don't have a problem.
Right. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because for me, my view of alcoholism is like leaving Las Vegas. What is it? Was that movie Leaving Las Vegas where it was continual, right?
Yeah,
But you're saying that that's just one definition. That's
exactly.
not all of it.
Exactly, Tony. And then the other thing that kept me stuck was, and this is huge, and this is what I write about in my book, because after I quit drinking, I really had to think, how did I stay stuck for 40 years? 40? Can't believe I just said that. Drinking like this and denying that it was a problem. It's that you don't call yourself an alcoholic. I never
Mm.
did. I didn't drink every day. I didn't think about drinking all the time.
Uh,
I didn't. And when I drank, 95% of the time, I could drink normal. It wasn't always a problem.
yeah. See, there's all the little reasonings of
Yes.
defining it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and so then I call it the 95-5 factor, and it's the 5% binging part of drinking, right? Because if
Mm,
your listeners out there are thinking, "Yeah, I drink and I don't, I don't have a problem." Oh, but that one night I wasn't going to drink so much and I ended up drinking 4 drinks and my friend had to drive me home and I threw up the next day. That's what I'm talking about. That's a binge incident
yeah.
that you're not planning. And the thing with even the binging is that when I look back, even if I did do that on occasion, which wasn't all the time either, nothing bad happened. I might have cried
Mhm.
in the corner. Sometimes you cry, get over
Yeah.
emotions, whatever, but nothing horrible.
Right.
And so you can still wake up the next day and say to yourself, I don't have a problem. This doesn't happen every time I drink. I'm not an
Yeah.
alcoholic. I'll be more careful next time. And you are because you're hyper vigilant, because you're going to be careful next time and maybe the next month. But then it slips back again and it happens again. this was my story,
Mhm.
and maybe someone out there can relate. And so the dangerous part within that is that there's a wild card in the binge drinking, and you never know when it's going to flip over. And that's when you, like you were telling me that horrible story of that the young man that at a party threw up in his bed and died in his vomit.
Yeah.
Or you get in a car and you drive home drunk because you're not thinking rational or you think you're okay. And these are the moments I'm talking about where it only takes one moment where your life can change forever
Right.
with binge drinking.
So there's been when I was growing up, there was there was a lot of huge media campaigns around dare, don't drink and drive, drugs, right? All the things. And so there's a lot of information out there, but why do you think it's still a problem? Like, why do you think that, you want to write a book and you want to write from your own experience? I mean, and AA's been around for a while now, and it's adopted in every corner of the world has an AA program. Tell us, like, what drove you to, number one, decide, okay, I'm done with this? And was it the relationship with your husband? Was that something that allowed you to continue that, or was there strife in that? Like, how is this still a relevant conversation to have today?
It's a relevant conversation to have today because it's still happening.
Yeah.
Statistically, you look at, and I'm not super good with statistics, so, I don't want to say the wrong one,
Just
but
throw it out there.
it's really high, like, thousands of people binge drink every day in the world, but even in the United States, so we are not alone.
Mm.
The CDC, I do know this statistic. The Center for Disease Control states that every year in the United States alone, 178,000 people die from alcohol-related death, and
Oh,
of those, 59,000 every year approximately are binge drinking incidences. That's one time of drinking too much and dying. It's not
right.
alcoholism, it's not your liver.
It's not what we see on TV is what we assume alcoholism is. It's
Exactly.
these wild card moments that you're talking about. Yeah.
Right, it's the kid that goes to college and has never drank and drinks the first time and ends up getting date raped or,
Yeah.
it's those stories of being unprepared and you're in a party environment. You think it's part of growing up. This is what I'm talking in the 20s when you're first starting to drink.
Mhm.
It's those that's why it's still a problem.
Yeah.
But there is a mind shift culturally happening now with the younger kids. From what I hear, I have younger nieces and nephews, and I ask them, "What's it like in college?" And they're not necessarily drinking. I couldn't say I probably have a couple that do party with
Mhm.
alcohol, a couple that don't. And they tell me it's not as common, but it still does. It is happening in the college age.
Right.
But it's actually progressing worse for people my age who are retiring because
Ooh, tell me
we
about
have
that.
'cause my generation, I'm in my 60s, we were the partiers. Like, we're like professional binge drinkers, right? And then people started getting married and having kids, and then it
Yeah.
slowed down, except for people like me who didn't do that, so I could still kind of pull.
Well, because you also had that lifestyle, like you said, where you got that break.
Yeah.
When you're on the boat, you don't have to, which when you were talking about it, I was like, yeah, of course, it's a way to reason out, like, yeah, I don't have a problem. Because look, I can go for months without it and I don't think about it. It's not haunting me, it's not calling my name. So I get what you're saying in that. But so you're seeing this increase of this age group that are now binging.
Statistically, that's what the statistics are stating. And here's really, I mean, a simple answer in it all is that if anyone's drinking, alcohol is addictive. It is hard to stop once you start drinking. And so a binge incidence is possible anytime you're drinking. I
Mhm.
mean, I have a friend who only drinks two, and I've maybe seen her twice in my entire life drink three, but she stops at two. I don't know how she does it because most people can't, right?
Yeah,
And,
sure.
it's just different for everybody.
Yeah. And so what were some of the experiences in your life where binge, that wild card, the wild
Yeah.
card that changed moments that really had you thinking, like processing it, going, I need to talk about this. The world needs to know.
Yeah. Well, I was really unaware how my drinking was a problem because of the reasons I told you. I was denying it. So in my 20s, I was very reckless, and I have a number of incidences where I could be dead. I jumped in the Skycomish River one time at a party. Yeah, and I didn't drown. Yeah, a lot of some of those silly stories, not silly, but stupid, really.
And we're
But
not talking, I just want to back up here because you said it so kind of passively. This river isn't like ankle deep. It's just what is it called? Like a miniature creek. We're talking a river and it has deep undercurrents of swirl. I had I knew somebody who was just doing one of those inner tubey things and she got caught underneath and today she's paralyzed because
my God.
so I know what you're saying. We're not talking these little rivers. When you're saying you had binged and decided to jump in a river, we're talking it may look still on the top, but it is raging underneath kind of river, which you came out of it alive, not harmed in any way. Another wild card that kind of passed you by, right? Is what you're saying.
Yeah, that was the first one, really, and, you're absolutely right. It's a level 3 or 4 rapids, so whitewater rafting is great on it, in a raft, and it's ice cold, it's snow melt. So I remember to this day, we were at a party. It's part of my one of my talks, it's my opening story, actually, when I speak, and, yeah, I looked across and said, "I can swim." I mean, we live in an area that swimming's very, you know kids learn how to swim early, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of good swimmers. So I thought I am a good swimmer, but I don't know. I just was drunk.
Like a super swimmer in your mind.
Yes, exactly. I was training for a race, so I thought I was Miss Wonder Woman, and I said I can swim across. I think in my mind, and I jumped in, and the minute I did, I knew I almost panicked. It like the wind got knocked out of me instantly, and I was swept downriver instantly.
Mhm.
And something said, "Turn on your back and kick like hell," and that's what I did, and I got to shore.
Wow. So there was still some part of you that had a really quick survival mechanism from
Yes.
that. But what you're saying also is that, again, I love to bring up the wild card because even though it's very reactive to the life, we want to
Mhm,
preserve life, there are moments where that is not the case,
mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then here's the other thing I like to share is that when I got out and I was wet and cold and walked back to the party, and everyone looks at me and says, "Why are you wet? Are you insane? Did you jump in the river?" And I went like this, and then we all started laughing. And that's the reaction that we get. And I started laughing, and I never thought at that moment, I didn't think, "Oh, I could have died and drowned and been
Right. And
washed."
nobody would have known.
Nobody would have known. And I told that story over and over at parties to get a reaction. And so I
Mm,
say to the people listening, have you ever nearly died? You defeated death. Everyone laughs, and you tell the story over like you wear it like a badge of honor.
yeah.
And then I just move on to what is binge drinking. And so, those were my 20s, though. I did chill out after I got a little bit older, 30s and
Mhm.
40s. I seem to periodically, at least once a decade, put myself in a situation that after binge drinking that wasn't safe. Uh,
Yeah. That wasn't the case.
yeah, and the last one really was when I drove home drunk 4.5 years ago. I'm 62. I was 58. Yeah, and that's when I unplanned party at my best friend's house on a Sunday barbecue, and I told my partner I'll be home at 6. We started drinking Moscow Mules. It was a beautiful day, which is rare, right?
Mhm.
So in the Northwest, when it's sunny, you're like, yeah, let's get the
Yeah,
party
it's like
on.
mission.
Exactly. And 6 o'clock rolls around and I didn't even notice until midnight. And then like, holy shit, I'm late.
Yeah.
And I had promised him I keep my promise. My friends are saying don't drive, of course, right? And I insisted. And
Mhm.
halfway home, I had to shut an eye so I could see the center line. And the next day, I made a promise. Well, coming home, I made a promise: get me home safely without killing anyone. And I swear to God, I'll quit. I will never do this again. On the next day, I woke up and that was my That was my moment of knew that the binge drinking, the only way I could keep that promise for me was to never drink again because I did not trust that it would never happen again. 'Cause I hadn't done anything like that for years.
You mean like quitting, right?
Like driving home drunk, like
Oh, oh,
anything that was
oh,
so negligibly
reckless. Yeah.
reckless,
I
right?
see
For
what you're saying.
years.
And again,
And
there's that thing you're bringing up is like the way that our minds work is if there's this space enough, if there's a
uh,
space in between, then it's not an issue. Right?
exactly, exactly. I
Yeah.
hadn't drank like that in years.
Yeah. That's
And
that's the thing. That's permission we're giving ourselves to. So then you decide, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do.
yep,
Did you do it on your own or did you how did that
yeah, it was really scary. I didn't want to quit. I like to drink. We like to go to parties and have a few, I mean, those that like to drink do, right? How was I gonna fit in? Would my friends still like me? And so it was terrifying, but I decided I had tried to quit a few times in my life when I had done something and thought, okay, maybe I have a problem. I always knew I did, really, but I could always talk myself out of it. And this time I thought, okay, I need to get some help.
Mm.
And I actually asked for help, which I've never done. I'm very independent and proud, and I found a group of women who actually it's mixed. Went the Annie Grace, This Naked Mind method,
Oh,
and yeah, have you heard of her? Oh,
it sounds
she's created a whole movement which is really really phenomenal. It's a different approach to quitting your drinking so that at the end of the day, it's not that I can't drink, I just don't want to anymore. Why would I? So you work through all your limiting beliefs of why you're drinking and what's hanging you up. You do mind shift, working our minds as you know that all that kind of work,
Mhm.
right? Like is it you just um what's the word I'm losing my track reframing your
Yeah.
beliefs about how alcohol was working for me. And so I joined her path program and I didn't contribute at first. I Zoom calls, you show up and there's maybe 3 people and there's a coach in the session.
Yeah.
And maybe I'd have my camera off if I didn't want to be seen, but listening to other people and the coaching and yeah, it's just I showed up to those and then eventually I shared and then I changed.
And so what made you decide like I want to get on stage and talk about this? I mean, because you're right, it is 100% still relevant. Like the normalization and the access to alcohol across the land is anybody, right? It could be any when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, I remember you had to wait in front, wait for somebody to come and be like, "Hey, could you buy a drink for me?" kind of thing. Right? Where now it's even more accessible. Like when my kids went through high school, I was like, how and they got good stuff, right? We were just trying to get away with the 40 ouncers that anybody would buy us, or the crap beer anybody would buy us, or I'm really gonna age myself, but they had those 2 liters, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Bartles and James and all that.
Oh my God. Bartles and James.
No, not even close. But then when my kids became teenagers, they were getting really high. I remember I found Grey Goose in her closet and I was like, okay, who can afford this?
Yeah.
Teenager. But I remember when they were in that age group, my biggest concern was if you're drinking because there's some emotions you can't deal with, then that is a problem. Because the one thing I knew I couldn't have control over is the accessibility. Because high school, it's just high school, it's college, right? And
Mhm.
so, but I wanted it to be more of the conversation of like, why are we doing it? If I know, then I can help you. I'm not trying to shame you into drinking when you're 16. I just need to know why. Like, then we could get through it. And so we had a lot of those conversations, but my husband comes from a long line of alcoholism, right? That's a prevalent thing in his family. So it was a concern to me naturally. But when I started talking to you, you really clarified the difference between what I assume alcoholism is and binge drinking. Now, they can both be alcoholics, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Alcoholism. but one performs differently than the other.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's
Go
when
ahead.
I started to realize that because I never thought it was a problem in my husband's family, never. They're all very high functioning, like that. And then when you started describing it, I was like, my gosh, that's what it is. It's because they can go for months and then binge it, right? And I think I've done that myself in my 20s where I'm like, this weekend I'm taking a break. Or you start the new year off, we're gonna have a dry New Year's.
Yes.
The only reason I stopped because I'm in menopause and I cannot. It literally makes me sick, or else I would still be binging
Uh, Yeah.
because my body just will not allow it.
Good for you, right?
I mean, in hindsight, yes, but that's not the case for everyone. And so I think that's why I really wanted you to get on the show because the thing about being in midlife is it's not about age, it's about transition. At a certain age, and you've been doing and thinking and being the same way. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, you have to change. There's chaos inside. And the only way sometimes to shut that down is to sit in front of the TV and have a glass of wine or two, three, or four, or five or 2 bottles, right? And that's
Yeah.
where I think you come in to say, this is you're not in saying it in judgment, you're just saying this is the truth of what binging is. It doesn't have to be all the time, but when you're in it like a champ.
I like that. I mean, I shouldn't laugh, but that's a great way to describe it. Yeah.
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 So tell us how when you decided that it was over, because that's the chaos that we're trying to deal with alcohol. Then you
Yeah.
add
And
the
it's very
chaos of
personal.
wanting to.
Tony, it's really personal because no one's gonna do it for you but you. You have to get sick and tired of it, and that's the thing. Like, it provides something for all of us or we wouldn't do it, right? Like,
Mhm.
I know for me, and it was a security blanket on some levels. And so, you could even say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna drink this bottle of wine and I know I'm gonna drink it and I'm fine with that." And
Mhm.
that's okay too. It's a choice. But how is it working for you, right? That's the question I would ask.
Mm.
And and maybe you're okay with how it's working for you if you're feeling certain ways and you're in a place where you're okay feeling that way. But if you want to make a change and you're kind of stuck in the mud, then that's where, there
Yeah.
is opportunities and people like you to help navigate through that, to
Yeah.
find a happier version of you that isn't stuck in the mud, that's just can walk gracefully through the rest of the other half of your life, right? There's so much more
Yeah.
living to do. Honestly, I was afraid going back to the, quitting, but there's a mind shift change, a whole cultural movement, alcohol free that's happening in the world. And the young kids that are in their 20s not drinking, they're already hip, they know it. It's trendy. It's getting trendy.
Mm.
And I was just in Europe for alcohol-free wine tours. So the alcohol-free industry is growing larger than the alcohol industry right now.
Wow. That's good to know. That's a
Yeah.
really interesting fact.
And in Europe, they're ahead of us, as they always are with everything. And we went to one winery in particular that's been around for hundreds of years, and they're the first ones that started distilling alcohol-free wine. And they say their sales are up 20-25% a year. And now the Napa Valley people are coming over to Europe to try to figure out what's the secret because they don't really give a crap about making it like the folks in Europe. They're interested because there's a market for it and they want to know
Right.
how to do it. If they were interested in the product, they would have already been doing it.
Yeah. That's a
But they
good.
realize, oh, we're getting behind this is the
Yeah.
trend. We need to get on board. And so they're backpedaling. But anyways, that is a kind of a little tangent. But alcohol-free options are out there, and some of them are very good. And it's not for everyone. It can be triggering if someone is thinking of how can I, kind of pacify myself if I
Mhm.
don't want to drink for a while. You can buy the non-alcohol beverages, and you might find they work for you when you get in that craving of I want something.
Yeah. I love that you said that because I was watching a show recently and it was something kind of like where people bring out their it wasn't Shark Tank, but it was very similar to Shark Tank. And
Mm,
this woman, she was bringing out alcohol-free seltzers type things. And I
okay.
was like, what? Because I remember for a long time, the only choices was the non-alcoholic beer that was just not at it's like, right, not good. So I love that you're saying that there's so much more opportunities and availabilities to cater to people who have years and years and years of experience, and you can't substitute taste also, right? So there's a palate that we've already come accustomed to, and then non-alcoholic beer just doesn't meet the expectations. But I'm glad that you're saying that there's actual non-alcoholic tours, but they're wine tours.
Yes. Well, and the beers too. I mean, there's actually a lot of, if you've never tried some of the non-alcohol beers, there's quite a few that I do this at our home when we have a party. They look the same as the other beers. I'll mix them all up and I'll see people drinking them and they don't know they're drinking a non-alcohol beer. I don't tell
Wow.
them. I just let them grab a beer and then later if they grab another one, I'll say, "Hey, did you know that's a non-alcohol beer?" And they'll go, "What?" I love to do that. It's just really fun. Because people are surprised.
Okay, so
When
if
you
you're invited to Colleen's house for a
yeah,
party, be aware that that could be part of your experience.
yeah, yeah. Anyways, yeah.
Oh my.
But it's yeah.
So when you're saying you wanted to get on stage and talk about this, and you had mentioned earlier that you want to go to schools, right? High
Yes.
schools and colleges, whatever. Um, with what you're saying that, the kids now are a little more hip to not drinking as much. Do you think that it's still because there's that saying how you do one thing is how you do everything, even though there's less drinking potentially in college, but there's more pot smoking. It's still kind of the same thing. We're still binging something. Is that really what the message is?
I think so. I have yet to speak at a school, and so I do have a signature speech for adults, but I would want to cater it to 20-year-olds. And I would probably ask my niece for her, I would have her help me with that because she's in that scene.
Yeah.
And see what she thinks, because that's important. If it resonates or if it's boring or what, and she'll tell me. But I think it is relevant, binging is binging,
Yeah.
and if you're not a binge drinker, you may know you may have your best friend who is,
Mm,
and so you can maybe share with them or just pay attention
yeah.
or help each other. It's just getting the message, and uh, so yeah,
And then you said earlier that there is a large number of us midlife humans that there's a rise in our intake of alcohol. So I attribute a little bit of that to COVID. I think that COVID really pushed a lot of like, if we're going to be at home and isolated and not right. There's so many people. I don't like humans, but really you need other humans to exist. Like whether you like them or not, that is part of our makeup is we need to be together in a, so I noticed that my son was working at a he was working for an alcohol distributor during COVID, and they told him that the alcohol consumption or sales went up by 300%. And I
oh
remember
wow.
thinking, whoa. But it makes sense because nobody could go anywhere. And how are we dealing with the feelings of we could die from a cough, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I know that that's a contributing factor, but that can't be the only thing. Is it because this age group were raised more in that sort of freedom of lots of consumption? Or are we the group that didn't really deal with a lot of our own traumas? Like, what do you think is the contributing factor to why so many of our midlife brothers and sisters are partaking in more alcohol drinking?
Yeah, some of this is just my own speculation. So I haven't really researched this heavy. A lot of us are retiring, the baby
Mm,
boomers, and
mm.
a lot of free time. I'm in a 55 plus community. I often see people at 4 o'clock walking in front of the house, a couple maybe with a couple bottles of wine, just a
Mm.
lot of happy hours.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's our age group is happening. I'm 62. I'm retiring soon. I'm at the bottom of the baby boomer. So, there's a lot of us in the world now.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's the largest group of people
yes,
are baby boomer.
yes. And we were the partiers.
Yeah.
We're the hardcore partiers back in the, and like I said, a lot of us slowed down because of family, whatever, professional. Some people just got smart with their health or their friend died of alcoholism. Some of us quit or slowed
Yeah.
down because we observe or we just think to ourselves, this isn't working for us. But some people don't, and they actually speed up at this point in life.
Interesting.
So that would be my guess. I don't
Yeah.
really have any scientific thing to back it up, but that's what I believe.
Yeah, but even in this scientific realm, it all starts from an observation of something, right? Because there's a unique I was reading about 5 years ago this research on that very thing you're talking about. Baby boomers really are coming out of this consistent, routine, regulated world of 9 to 5, 30 years. But in their retirement, they're still young and vibrant and they still have so much to offer and they don't really know how to be bored. And I
Yes.
was reading that going, and then just recently, they're saying that by 2035 or something like that, there'll be 600,000 plus jobs and trades that will need an influx of people because a lot of the kids today are not going into trades. And that's that a lot of baby boomers own those trade businesses, right? Electricians, plumbers, mechanics, the whole thing. And when you think about those types of jobs, those are very manual, face to face, belly to belly type things. And then what? What are you doing now? You're just
Yeah.
kind of like taking walks around with a bottle of wine,
Yeah.
I
Lots of
guess.
free time and money they've planned for
Yeah.
their retirement.
Fascinating. I think I mean, I really am grateful that you've decided to step into this. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to say something because I think as people get into their 40s and 50s, not really 40s, I think they're still part of the crew that's out there doing stuff. But like me in my 50s, we're just not as interested in being in the social space, but we're also being forgotten by the rest of the world of like, they're just slowly withering away. But actually, we're not. We're
We're
not.
not. We're the 60, when I think of my grandma when she was 60, I thought she was so old. And
Right.
I don't think,
You don't look it either. Like you don't look like you're just, oh, it's 2 o'clock. I'm getting ready for dinner in bed.
yeah, I think we're aging healthier and
Yeah.
we're going to live longer. And
Agreed.
I did want to say one thing, like for your listeners, the reason I'm so passionate about it is that I don't think we talked about my late husband dying by suicide.
Yes, please. Let's
Yeah,
talk
and
about it.
so he 14 years ago, so it's quite a while ago, and I can talk about without, tearing up. But through that whole process of processing it, it was long. I ended up making a promise to him at the end of all my processing stages. The last one was compassion. And I thought, wow, he chose death over life. He must have been so depressed. And he had been drinking, binge drink. He was totally annihilated drunk. And I thought I said to him in my prayers or whatever, talking to him, that I would do something with the tragedy to make change. And I think, so that his death doesn't go in vain. And I've decided it just kind of morphed into this. I like to write. So I'm writing the book, which will be done in April, Life Beyond the Binge. And within that, it talks about the dangers of binge drinking and how my whole purpose is to just bring awareness to it. It's not to preach to people that they have to quit drinking. It's just to say it is very dangerous and be aware. It only takes one moment to change a life forever. And if I can help one person not become a statistic, my job will be done. And I don't even have to know about it. It's just sharing, right? That's how we in the world,
Yeah.
that's how we make change is sharing. And so that's the message, and that's why I'm passionate about it, is I promised, and so I like to keep my promises. So here I
Oh,
am. Thank you for allowing me to be here to share that.
my gosh. No, thank you for stepping into that because that takes a lot of courage. I mean, we've all made some kind of promise, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to put it out there on a megaphone and be like, hey, guess what? Right. And especially from your own personal experience of not just your husband, but yourself, right? Because you've got to be vulnerable enough to share pieces of you that could be written in guilt and shame, which is what all that's why to me these conversations in midlife are so important because it's about how we are journeying through very similar things, but completely differently, but we don't talk about it. So we're just in it by ourselves, like, oh, yeah, me, me too, like that. When really, when we get to talking, we're like, my gosh, yeah, that I
Yeah.
know what that is. Not maybe personally, but I know somebody, right? Or maybe I do
Yeah.
know it personally. And then because we're all in the same journey together, there's no judgment in it. There's no judgment in what you're sharing and how I relate to what you're sharing. We're just having a conversation so everybody else doesn't feel so alone going, why am I so bored and I'm only 65? And why I don't really want to drink, but that's the only thing that's offered at my 55 plus community. Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways that we're seeing and thinking that never really because no one else is talking about it. We just assume it's our thing. But then when someone like you decides one day, I think I'm going to talk about it, that takes a shit ton of courage.
Well, thanks. Or craziness, one or the other.
I think those kind of both go hand in hand.
Yeah,
Think,
actually.
courage has a little element of crazy in it. Just feel like that those are just the spaces. And I love to have these conversations because there's just too many subjects that are so important to our lives that not one person should be responsible for. I think when a group or like what they say, when more than one are gathered, right? It's in the midst. That's a biblical term, but it's can go for anything. And
Mhm.
I feel like when it's like intervention is still going. Can you believe that? It's like 25 episode seasons into it, which means like it's been around for 26 years. So yeah, alcohol is still a problem. If it's still on television and you can still get it like real time right now, it's still a thing. And you're bringing it in a different way also. I think we know enough about we know enough about alcoholism, but we're kind of like, "Oh, what's this binge thing? What do you mean?" And I love
Mhm.
how you say it's not about asking people to stop drinking. You're not
Mhm.
being mad, the mothers against drunk driving type of
Mhm.
scenario. You're just saying that be on a lookout for your behaviors.
Mhm. Yeah, my partner drinks, not often, but and I don't give him the eye when he decides to pour himself a whiskey. I mean, his thing's his thing and mine's mine, and I'm like, great. Yeah, I have nothing to say about it. Although we have talked that if he drank a lot and it was a problem, it would be a problem, but it's not. So,
Yeah.
it's not a problem. I just don't ever for me, it's if I feel very grateful that I can have it in the house. I never even look at it. I mean, I don't even know what's in our liquor cabinet. I just don't even want it. And that's the one thing that Annie Grace says. It's not that I tell myself I can't ever drink again. I could if I want. I could take a sip of his whiskey and never drink and say, okay, I tried it. He got this nice
Yeah.
whiskey. I taste it. And then I'm like, okay, that's it. It's that I'm choosing not to drink again.
Yeah, which I think is a more empowering message, right?
It is.
So the world of internet don't come out to get it, don't come for us when she's over here talking about, it's okay for him to drink and she is advocating this binging is not a good thing. It's not the best thing. It's not that. We're not making it this judgment of like I'm only preaching my message and that's the only thing. 'Cause that's
Mhm,
the problem is that we get too rigid with the nose and the whole thing versus
mhm,
like your partner is drinking next to you and you don't feel like we have to normalize the way we normalize life.
mhm.
And
I
there's
love
no
that.
actual rules to every individual's way of living. But we make it that way. We're like, well, rule one says if you're a Christian, you can only do this. Okay, what? Rule number two is if you're a Democrat, you can only be this. Like we make it so rigid that
Yes.
we don't become humans in the process. And what I love about what you're saying is humanizing what can be a problem and what might not be a problem for people in general.
And to just piggyback on that, to just allow everyone to be who they are
Yes.
and figure it out for themselves. You know,
Yes.
if it's not working for them, they'll figure it out. It can get a little murky if you're in a relationship with someone where their behavior is starting to, you know, like watercolor paint slide over into your life. That's
Yeah.
where you might have to have those conversations. But otherwise, live and
Right.
let live. I mean, I'm so like, I should have been a 60. Well, I was born in the 60s, but I should have been a teenager. I'm such a like live and let live kind of person. I'm always doing this. My friends are like, "You're so weird."
I am a real staunch human. Like I grew up in a very rigid environment, but I'm also like, I could be me and you could be you. And I think that's the beauty that we're not allowing to exist, and why what you're saying out in the world is really important, because everybody gets to be and choose, but we should also have models to choose from. Be like, oh, maybe a little bit of that and a little bit of this and some of that. And oh my gosh, Colleen, all right, I'm going to her party because she gives me a choice of alcoholic or alcoholic. I'm just saying. And it also allows permission for everybody else who might be beating themselves up to be like, "Oh, I don't want to drink anymore, but my partner drinks." Right? Like, no, everybody
Mm.
gets to be who they are, because love is, if love is truly unconditional, like you said, it really just comes down to, then you got to have that conversation if it is a problem.
Right, and maybe during that, like for that person out there listening who thinks they might wanna give it a rest for a little bit and their partner drinks and they're thinking, "Oh, I will never be able to do it if they're drinking." You could have the conversation like, "Honey," whoever that honey is, "can you just support me in this? Like, can
Yeah.
you, like, just put it aside or put it in put it where I can't see it," or whatever it takes for you in the beginning, especially to get through it. I have been alcohol free for a number of years, so I can say this pretty easily. It wasn't so easy in the beginning, and I kind of forget about that. In the beginning, you're going to have cravings and what have you. You do have to set up your like defensive, like, okay, how am I going to do this without caving if that's your goal?
And
So,
I do
and that's
want to go ahead.
I was gonna say, and that's where working with someone or getting, it's just if you really want to be successful, for me anyways, it was getting help and guidelines and accountability, because without accountability, you could just throw it all out the window and nobody knows that you're trying to quit.
It's just not something that you put out there. So if that is an issue for a listener of like, oh my gosh, I need support in this, and Colleen seems to be speaking your language, are you still available?
Yes, I am. Yeah, if anyone reached out, I would. I mean, it's hard to say no, right? It's kind of like the universe puts you together.
Yeah.
But it's just for 2026, I have different goals and visions for where I want to go with my messaging and my book. My book's coming
Yeah.
out in April, and I'm doing a lot more writing. I love to write, so I'm getting published in some magazines and yeah, I know that's exciting.
Yay.
So the speaking's kind of the focal point, but yes, definitely, I wouldn't say no.
And I just want to point out, right? Like, I'm not over here just being like, "Oh, let's market your business and all of that."
Right.
But what I want to express is this transition. See, there's still life after binging. This is
Mhm,
the whole message, is there's life after. You just can't maybe see it right now, and you just
mhm,
have to be open to it. And I love that you keep mentioning, "Well, I'm 62." And really, that's
mm.
so young. And I remember when my mom was 50, I was like, "Oh my God, you're so old." And now I'm 50 and I'm
Yeah.
like, I am not old.
I know. And, I'm so excited because I was always a little bit when I was hitting 45, 50, I was getting like, oh my God, I'm getting old. And now in my 60s, I'm like, bring it on. I'm so excited to get older.
Yeah.
And I can't, it's like I'm going to have a whole nother identity of me
Yeah. Oh
moving
my
forward.
gosh.
It's just super exciting.
Is exciting. That is super
Mhm.
exciting. So, for all of you who's listening, just know we'll have all of Colleen's information in our show notes. But I'm going to ask you one last question, and I ask all my guests. You're walking down the street and you go into a cafe and you see 25-year-old you. What would you say to her that she would actually listen to?
You really are lovable, Colleen. Everybody loves you. Why don't you love you?
That's so good. That's a good one. That's a
Thanks.
really good one. Lovability is all of our struggles.
Mhm.
100%. So thank you so much for sharing that. And for all of you who is listening, if this message, this conversation struck something in you, or you know someone who could benefit from it, please share it, because I'm here to support Colleen's revolutionary new chapter of sharing her story and helping people along the way. And that's what we do. That's what we're here for, is to contribute into each other's lives the best way that we know. And so I just appreciate that. I thank you so much, Colleen, for coming and being a part of this conversation and sharing with us all of your wisdom and the energy that you bring.
Thanks for providing this space and you and your energy. It was really fun and great. Great time.
I'm so glad. And now that we know like could potentially run into each other, that's even
I
more
know.
fun.
I love that. I think we will. I think we will.
Yes, for sure. And for everybody else, thank you. Keep following us on all our social media. It's all under my name, Wonderful Morrison. And then also give us some great reviews and then share this with everybody you know. If anybody if you're listening to this and you're like, I know somebody who has an organization that Colleen would be perfect to speak at, I'm just endorsing her right now. Okay. I'm just going to say it. I'm like, just invite her and then get her on the stage because she is a delightful human. Until next time, everyone, make good choices. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you so much for being with me on today's journey. If you felt something resonate, if you saw yourself in this conversation, please take a moment to subscribe. Share it with a friend who needs this space and leave a review. It helps others find us, and it's a small way you can be a part of this powerful movement. Ladies, this isn't just a podcast. It's a community, a revolution, a place where midlife women come together to embrace our hard-earned wisdom and vibrant truth. So thank you for being part of this. Remember, it's time. It's time to step into our truth. No more holding back. Midlife is ours to own, and it's only getting started. So, until next time, take a breath, honor your journey, and live with audacity, courage, and joy. This is our time, our truth, unraveled, revealed, and celebrated.